There's a moment that comes for almost everyone. Quietly, in a hospital waiting room, a class reunion, the silence after a phone call you didn't expect. And in it, something in you goes still, and you think, I understand now. I just wish I'd understood this 30 years ago. These lessons were never hidden. They're sitting in plain sight, in the ordinary wreckage of everyday choices. The apology we over-explained, the friendship we chased, the boundary we never set. We just don't see them until we're far enough away to look back. So today, we're taking the early version. 10 lessons life usually teaches last. Not to make you feel behind, but because there's mercy in hearing something before you need it, instead of after. Stay until the end. The 10th one changes how you see all the others. Let's begin. Number 1. The more you explain yourself, the less people respect you. Think about the last time you did something you didn't need to justify, and justified it anyway. Maybe you left a party early. Maybe you turned down a request. Maybe you simply said no, and then spent the next 5 minutes building a case for why no was allowed. Here's what nobody tells you. Every extra sentence of explanation is a small transfer of power. You're handing the other person a vote on whether your reason was good enough, and the moment they sense that transfer, something shifts. Not always consciously, but it shifts. People don't respect explanations. They respect decisiveness. This doesn't mean become cold or stop communicating or treat every conversation like a boardroom negotiation. It means noticing the difference between informing someone and pleading your case to them. I can't make it. Saturday is a complete sentence. I can't make it Saturday because I have this thing, and then my sister needs help, and I've just been so busy, and I really wanted to, but that's not information anymore. That's an application for approval. The people who move through life with quiet authority aren't the ones with the best excuses. They're the ones who stopped auditioning for permission to live their own lives. And here's the part that stings a little. The people who demand the longest explanations from you are often the ones least entitled to one. Family members, friends, co-workers who've never once extended you the same courtesy. They'll ask why the fastest and forgive the slowest. You don't owe the world a legal brief for every choice you make. You owe it your honesty once, briefly, and then the confidence to let it stand. Number 2, trying to be liked by everyone means standing for nothing. Picture a person who has never once been criticized. Not by a coworker, not by a family member, not by a stranger online. At first, that sounds like the dream, but sit with it a little longer, and it starts to sound like something else entirely. A person who has never said anything that mattered. Every real opinion creates friction somewhere. Every boundary excludes someone who wanted you to have none. Every value you hold will, at some point, put you at odds with someone who doesn't share it. And that's not a flaw in the system. That is the system. Conviction, by definition, cannot please everyone, because if it pleased everyone, it wouldn't be conviction. It would be vapor. It would just be agreement wearing a costume. So many people spend their 20s and 30s sanding down every edge they have, hoping that if they just stay agreeable enough, likable enough, easy enough, they'll be loved by all and resented by none. And it works for a while. Right up until they realize that being universally tolerated isn't the same thing as being deeply valued. You can't be everyone's favorite and also be someone's definite choice. Those are different prizes, and you only get to chase one. The people you actually admire, the ones whose names come to mind when you think of someone with real presence, were never universally liked. They were unmistakably themselves, and some rooms loved them for it, and some rooms didn't, and they kept walking anyway. Somewhere along the way, most people learn this too late. It is far better to be the right answer for the right people than the acceptable answer for everyone. Number 3, time doesn't heal everything. Sometimes, it teaches you to live with it. We tell each other time heals all wounds so often that it starts to feel like a law of physics. But ask anyone who has actually lost something, a parent, a marriage, a version of themselves they can't get back. And they'll tell you something quieter and more honest. The wound doesn't close. You just get stronger around it. Grief doesn't operate on a calendar. It doesn't shrink in a straight line, the way we're promised it will. It comes in waves that get further apart, but the waves themselves don't necessarily get smaller. 10 years later, a song on the radio, a smell, a stray sentence in a movie can still put you right back on the floor of that exact day. That's not failure to heal. That's just what love costs after the person or the thing is gone. What time actually gives you isn't erasure. It's carrying capacity. In the beginning, the grief is the whole room. It's all there is. It presses against every wall. Slowly, almost without your permission, life builds new rooms around it. You laugh again, you fall in love again, or find new purpose again, or simply learn to make coffee again without the silence being unbearable. The grief doesn't leave. It just stops being the only tenant in the house. This is not a tragic realization. It's actually a relieving one. Once you stop expecting the wrong thing from time, you're not broken because the pain is still there years later. You were just told to expect a cure when what you were always going to get, what everyone gets, is the quiet, ordinary skill of learning to live fully alongside it. Number 4, life gets easier when you stop expecting fairness from people. Somewhere in childhood, most of us absorb a simple belief. If you're good, good things happen to you. And if you work hard and treat people well, the world evens out in your favor eventually. It's a beautiful belief. It is also, quite often, not true. And the gap between that belief and reality is where an enormous amount of adult suffering lives. You will watch people who did less get promoted faster. You will watch people who lied get believed, while you, telling the truth, get questioned. You will pour years into a friendship that someone else abandons in a single text message. None of this is fair. And the sentence that changes everything is not "this shouldn't happen," because it will keep happening regardless. But rather, I no longer expect the world to run on a ledger it never agreed to keep. This is not the same as giving up on justice, or becoming cynical, or deciding not to care anymore. It means separating two different jobs that used to be tangled together, doing the right thing and expecting the right thing back. You can still fight for what's fair, you can still call out what's wrong, but you stop staking your peace on the outcome because your peace was never fairnesses to give in the first place. The people who seem to move through disappointment lightly aren't the ones who got treated fairly more often. They're the ones who stopped budgeting their emotional well-being around an expectation the world never promised to honor. Once you let that go, disappointment stops being a personal betrayal and starts being just weather. Something to notice, prepare for, and walk through. Not something that gets to ruin your whole day every single time it shows up. Number 5, people reveal their true character when they no longer need you. There's an old idea, worn smooth from repetition but still sharp if you actually think about it. You don't learn who someone is by how they treat you when they want something from you. You learn who they are by how they treat you the moment they don't. Watch what happens when the favor's already been done, the deal's already closed, the relationship no longer offers them anything obvious. Watch what happens after the promotion they needed your help to get, after the introduction you made for them, after the emotional labor you provided during their hardest year. Do they stay? Do they check in? Or does the warmth cool the instant the usefulness runs out? This isn't cynicism about people in general. Most people are decent, most of the time, but almost everyone has, at least once, been quietly hurt by discovering that a closeness they thought was mutual was actually conditional. And it's a specific kind of pain because it doesn't announce itself as betrayal. It just slowly goes quiet. Fewer texts, shorter replies. A friendship that used to feel like a two-way street, turning, almost invisibly, into a one-way one. Here's the lesson that usually comes far too late. Stop mistaking usefulness for love, and stop mistaking convenience for loyalty. The friend who shows up when it costs them nothing is not the same as the friend who shows up when it costs them something. Pay closer attention to people in the moments they have nothing to gain from you. That's not the exception to who they are. That's the truest version of it. Number 6. Peace is more valuable than attention. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from performing too hard, from constantly narrating your life for an audience, chasing likes, chasing being noticed, chasing the validation of people who, if you're honest, you don't even think about when the roles are reversed. Attention feels like nourishment in the moment. It has all the sensations of value, the little spike of dopamine, the sense of being seen, the temporary silencing of self-doubt. But attention is a loan, not a gift. It has to be repaid constantly with more performance, more content, more proof that you're still worth watching. And loans like that come with interest, your actual peace of mind. Compare that to the quieter thing sitting right next to it, usually ignored because it doesn't come with any applause. Peace. A Tuesday afternoon where nobody needs anything from you. A decision made without consulting 12 people's opinions first. A version of your life that you're not curating for an audience, just living. Because it's yours. Almost everyone eventually reaches a point, sometimes only after burning out chasing the wrong thing for years, where they realize that being unseen and calm feels immeasurably better than being seen and anxious. Not because attention is evil, but because it was never actually the thing they were craving. What they wanted underneath the attention was to feel like they mattered. And it turns out, peace, real internal peace, tells you that far more convincingly than a crowd ever could. And it doesn't charge interest to keep it. Number 7. Being a good person doesn't guarantee good treatment. This one is quietly devastating for a lot of people because it breaks a deal they didn't realize they'd made with the universe. If I'm kind, kindness will come back to me. Sometimes it does. Often it simply doesn't. You can be honest with someone who lies to you. You can be loyal to someone who leaves the second it's inconvenient. You can give your best years to a job, a marriage, a friendship, and still end up being the one who gets hurt, replaced, or forgotten. Being good does not install a force field around you. It never did. That was always a story we told ourselves to make kindness feel safer than it actually is. But here's where the lesson turns, and it turns somewhere important. If kindness were only worth practicing because of what it earns you back, it was never really kindness. It was a transaction wearing a disguise. Real character isn't a strategy for better treatment. It's a decision about who you want to be regardless of how you're treated. It's choosing not to become someone you'd be ashamed of, even when the world gives you every excuse to. This isn't a call to be a doormat, and it's not permission for people to treat you badly forever. Good treatment is still something you're allowed to expect and to walk away when you don't get it. But you can hold both things at once. Continue being decent because it reflects who you are while no longer being shocked or shattered when decency isn't met with decency in return. The moment you stop expecting kindness to be repaid is the moment it stops being able to be weaponized against you. Number 8. The life you want lies beyond the habits you keep avoiding. There's a version of your life you can already picture. Stronger, calmer, more accomplished, more you. And if you're honest, you already know, roughly, what stands between here and there. It's rarely a mystery. It's usually a short, specific, uncomfortable list. The workout you keep postponing, the conversation you keep avoiding, the hour of focused work you keep trading for something easier. Comfort is seductive, precisely because it doesn't ask anything of you in the moment. It costs nothing today. But comfort has a strange business model. It collects its payment later, quietly, in the form of the life you didn't build because you kept choosing the version of today that required the least from you. Growth, on the other hand, is almost always uncomfortable first and rewarding later, which is exactly why so many people avoid it. The discomfort is immediate and obvious. The reward is delayed and, in the moment, invisible. Your brain, which is wired to avoid immediate pain far more urgently than it's wired to chase delayed reward, will always vote for comfort unless you deliberately override it. This is, in some ways, the most hopeful lesson on this list, because unlike some of the others, this one is fully within your control. You don't need permission, luck, or someone else's cooperation. You simply need to notice the exact habit you've been quietly avoiding: the gym, the budget, the hard conversation, the boring discipline, and understand that it isn't standing between you and your life by accident. It's standing there because, on some level, it is the doorway. The discomfort isn't a detour from the life you want. Very often, it's the price of admission. Number 9. Some people only respect you when you stop being too nice. There's a myth that if you're accommodating enough, agreeable enough, endlessly available enough, people will love you more for it. And with some people, that's true. But with a specific, painfully common type of person, the opposite happens. The more you bend, the less they value the bending. It's a strange, almost backwards mechanism of human psychology. Constant accommodation doesn't read as generosity to everyone. To some people, it reads as a lack of a floor. If you always say yes, your yes stops meaning anything, because it was never actually a choice. It was just the default setting. And things that require no cost to obtain rarely get treated as valuable, no matter how much effort actually went into them. The turning point, for a lot of people, comes the first time they say no to someone they'd never said no to before. And instead of losing that relationship, they watch it improve. The friend who suddenly starts making more effort. The family member who stops taking them for granted. The partner who finally starts asking instead of assuming. Not because that person suddenly changed, but because a boundary introduced a cost to the relationship that hadn't existed before. And cost is often what teaches people to value something. This isn't about becoming difficult or transactional with everyone in your life. It's about understanding that endless niceness, offered unconditionally to people who've never had to earn it, doesn't always build respect. Sometimes it quietly erodes it. Boundaries aren't the opposite of kindness. They're what makes kindness mean something because they prove it was a choice, not a reflex. Number 10. Don't waste years trying to impress people who don't remember you. And here, finally, is the one that quietly contains all the others. Think back to high school. Think of the people whose opinions once felt like the entire weather system of your life, whose approval could make a week feel golden, whose disapproval could ruin it. Now ask yourself honestly, how many of them think about you at all? Not never at all. For most of us, the answer is almost none. The audience we spent years performing for was never actually watching that closely. They were busy being the main character of their own story, the same way we were busy being the main character of ours. This is the strange, humbling, oddly freeing truth at the center of almost every regret on this list. So much wasted explaining, so much chasing likability, so much bending, so much performing for approval. Most of it was spent on people who weren't even paying attention and wouldn't remember the effort even if you reminded them of it today. The tragedy isn't that people forget us. That's just how human attention works. Everyone is the star of their own movie, and we're all extras in each other's. The tragedy is when we spend our one non-renewable supply of time and energy trying to earn a spot in someone else's story, instead of investing that same time and energy into the story that's actually ours. The years you spend trying to impress people who won't remember are years you don't get to spend building the life, the relationships, and the version of yourself that you will remember. And that will remember you back. So here they are. 10 lessons life usually hands out late. You don't have to wait for the version that arrives in a hospital room, or a quiet look back on decades you can't get back. You get to take the early version, the cheaper one. Paid for in a little discomfort now instead of regret later. Stop over-explaining. Stop performing for approval. Choose peace over attention. Set the boundary. Do the uncomfortable thing today. And stop spending your one life trying to be remembered by people who won't remember you. If even one of these landed, sit with it for a moment before you move on. And if you want more of this, you know where to find it. Take care of yourself. You've got more time than you think if you stop wasting it starting today.